Hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can create this base path for these two circles, and obviously we have two action buttons over here. So if I click on success, the circle is going to morph to this nice sort of tick button or tick icon. And if I press on error, let's say you got an error response from your backend or your algorithm didn't run pretty well, you want to show this to the user, right? I would like to uh, ask for apology here because this week I was preparing to sell my apartment and I couldn't put time off as much as I needed to create this tutorial. But anyways, let's get started. As always, I go to codetools.com and create a new prototype. I'll start it with the SVG tag. I gave it a width of 120 and height of 120, and then within that I'm gonna say let's create a path and then the D attribute. So we want to create the first circle. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move to the middle of the circle, right? So it's 60 and 60, assuming that the width and height is 120. And in order to visualize it better, I'm going to create a background color for this to be red, right? So this is our SVG. And using the M, 60 and 60, I go right in the middle, right? And then I'll use, so as you can see also I'm using a capital M. So it's these are absolute values, or let's say relative values to the starting or the origin of my SVG. But then if I want to go like minus 60 pixel on the y-axis, like relative to where I am, I'm going to use lower M. And then on x-axis, I don't want to move at all, but on y-axis, I want to go minus 50, right? So first I came here in the middle using M 6060, and then I used lower M and then gave it x0 and on y minus 50 pixel, so it goes up right over here. And then that's where I want to start my first arc, right? So I have a tutorial on how to create path like arcs and stuff. I'm going to put the link down here somewhere so you can visit that tutorial to get a little bit more knowledge about how things work in terms of SVG path. But in general, let's get started. The way I'll do it, I'll create an arc. So I want an arc right over here. I'm going to use A. And then I want the X and Y radius to be 50 and 50 because I want a perfect circle at the end with the radius of 50, right? So this is the radius of our ellipsis on 50 on x-axis, and this is on y-axis. So this basically represents a circle. And then the next option is that if I want to have any orientation, well, I don't want it. And then basically when you create an arc, when you have different values for the radiuses of on the x and y axes, you can have literally two ellipses that goes through these through the points that you define over here. But now we're using a circle, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to put 0 here, and then it asks if I want to, because then you're going to have two arcs, right? So if I'm going to choose the first arc or the second arc, I'm going to choose one for now to show you how it looks, and then ultimately it wants the end position of my arc, right? Which is going to be, let's say 100, 0 on x-axis and 100 on y-axis, right? So you can see that we have an arc here. Just to go again through it, I used A here, that saying that I want to start an arc, and then I said I want the X radius and Y radius to be both 50 because I want a perfect circle. And then I don't want any orientation on my circle, and I'm gonna choose the first circle. And then do I want to like switch? So if I choose 0 here, you can see that I have my arc over here. I'm going to choose 1. And then when I have this arc, I want to define the end position, which is 0 on x-axis. Again, you can see that I'm using lower a. If I choose a capital A, you can see it actually ends on the point 0 and 100 relative to the beginning of my SVG over here, right? But that's what I don't want. I want to say A, and then at the end I'm choosing 0 and 100, meaning that relatively I don't want to go anywhere on my x-axis, but on y-axis I want to come 100, right? Now that I have this perfect sort of arc, I'm going to continue create the second arc by using again the same A tag. I want to use the same 50-50 for my X radius and Y radius, and then I want to choose 0 again for any orientation. I don't want any orientation on my circle, though, or ellipsis, though in the circle the orientation doesn't really matter because it's always perfect. And then again 0, choosing the first circle, and then the same for if I want to use the first side or second side, and then I'll tell it to go 0 and minus 100, right? Relative to where I started. So I started over here, the radiuses are 50 and 50, and then the end point relative to this point is obviously 0 on y-axis and minus 100 on 0 on x-axis and minus 100 on y-axis. So now I have this perfect circle. I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to copy this and paste it over here. This time I want it to be smaller. So instead of going up from the center minus 50, I'll choose minus 30, right? And then again, the radiuses, I'll define minus 30 and 30 and 30. And then the end position, instead of, because I have 30 as my radius, I don't want it to be 100, I want it to be 60, right? And the same way I do this. So again, I'll do 30, and then 30, and then obviously I want to go minus 60 over here. I'm going to change, just going to give these some class, so it's my bigger circle, and then the second path to be my small circle, or let's say big circle and small circle, right? And then go to my CSS, I say big circle, let's give it a color of, I don't know, like yellow, so fill yellow. So this is this, and then obviously you can see the smaller circle as I created over here. I'm going to just remove the background on my SVG and pretty much removing this. So you can see how using only coding I chose this to be my bigger circle and this one to be my small circle, right? Pretty easy. Now the second part is I want to create the tick icon that the animation morphs to when I click on the success button, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just remove these. I'm going to say whatever path I have in my SVG, just set the fill to none, and then give it a stroke of maybe 0, 0, 0, and then maybe stroke width of 5, right? And then for my small circle, I'm just going to change this stroke color to be, let's say, red, right? So that we have a bit of a distinction over there. And now for the second part, or the third part, I'm going to start creating a new path. And then I'll give it a class, let's say success. And the D is going to be, or the D attribute is going to be, now I'm going to move to right over here, which is M60, right? And then 10, because my whole SVG was 120 and 120, and then I'll go 60, so it becomes here somewhere, and then 10 on y-axis to be somewhere in the middle here on my bigger circle, right? And then I will start my arc. So my arc, using the capital A, I'm going to say the X radius and Y radius are 50 and 50, the same as the one I have over here. And just to give you a bit of a color over here, I'm going to just go here and change the SVG big circle stroke to be maybe DDD. And then I'll say svg.success, which is the one that I'm creating right now over here. I'm going to just say I want the stroke to be green, right? So now if I continue this, I don't want any, so I'm just going to follow this A over here. So 50-50 X radius, Y radius, and then 0 again, choosing the first circle, and then I want this to choose this side rather than this side. And now I need to define the end position on the arc that I want my arc to be, right? So I'll choose maybe 100 and 30, right? You can see that this actually 130 is relative to the beginning of my SVG. That's why I chose the capital A over here. And then after a little bit of a trial and error, so I started setting 120 for example, and then I changed this, and then now I know that it kind of ends up on my circle over here. And the next step is just creating a line that comes over here. So I'll choose the L, let's say 60 and 70. So you can see that using L it comes to 60 and 70. And then I'll want to go a little bit up over here. So I'll choose, let's say, L 50 and 60. Right, so what happens is that these circles start rotating, and then when you click on the success button, this path starts showing up, right? So it starts here and then continues and becomes this sort of tick button, right? And then now I want to create the cancel. So the cancel is pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to create a path. I'll just name it error. And then I start with going pretty much exactly the same place as I went on my previous path. And then here I'm going to choose A, again 50 and 50, 0, 0, 1. And then here I'm going to go maybe 95 and 24. So you can see that I ended up on the same circle up here. And then I'll choose the L, which is a line, create a line to 50 and 80, right? So now I have the first sort of line on my sort of cancel checkbox, right? Now for the second one, I'm going to choose a path. I'll just give it a class error2. And then I'll give it a D of M. Here instead I'm going to go 60 and 30 because the smaller circle starts on the y-axis from the top of my SVG 30 pixels down, right? So M60, 30, and then I know my radius is 30, 30 on the smaller circle. and then again 0, 0, 1, and then I would like to end up on maybe, let's say 88, and let's say 34. So I need to play a little bit, maybe 44, 45, 46, 7. Yeah, it seems like it ended up on the correct place, right? But that is not what I want. I want this to come all the way down here and then go up, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just hide all of the other circles. So visibility hidden. I'm going to choose for my small circle, for the success as well. So now what I want to do is I want to go all the way down and then go up. Maybe just removing the visibility on the smaller circle so I have a point of reference here. So instead of choosing 88 and 48, I'm going to choose maybe something bigger like 88 over here. And then I'm going to choose, let's start with 60, 68, 69, and then maybe 70. Let's go 72, 71. Yeah, there you go. So this point over here is 7188, right? You saw that I did a little bit of a trial and error, kind of match this arc to be on my smaller circle, right? And then obviously I can choose L to create a line to go to the point 50 and 50, right? Though you can see that it doesn't look really good because I should maybe start from here somewhere. So instead of 88, I'm going to choose maybe 68. Yeah, not bad. And then here I'm going to choose maybe 81. No. 86, 88, 89. Yeah, there you go. So you can see still it doesn't look good, so I need to come a little bit down over here. So in order to do that, I'm going to choose 78, maybe. Looks kind of better. And then I'll, on x-axis, I'm going to use maybe 84. Yeah, looks quite alright. So you can see that when I click on the cancel button, this animation, these two paths start animating. The first one comes and shows over here, and the second one starts over here and goes over here, right? So you can see that you pretty much can create intended SVG path by knowing the commands and how they work. I pretty much showed you how to create arcs, how to move to some specific point, how to move relatively from the previous point that you were, and how to create an arc relatively basically from the point that you were before that. So just for you guys, if you are interested in this and you follow, it's always good to go in Google and search for SVG path. What you get as a result over here on developer Mozilla, there's this path SVG on their developer network that actually goes through teaching all of these helpful commands on SVG path. So as you can see, I utilize this one, and then if you go through it, it has very nice examples with definitions of what explicitly these commands are and what they represent. So for example, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see there is a section with arc, and this is exactly what I used to create these paths, right? So I hope you enjoyed this first tutorial. Please go practice. I'm just gonna put this link of this prototype in the description of this tutorial, and I would like you to subscribe to this channel to follow up on how to create that animation. So yeah, stay tuned and have a great day and night. Bye.